Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Chapter 10, Bhagavad Gita. It's hard to match chapter 9, Bhagavad Gita, but chapter 10 is pretty special too. Because chapter 10 of Bhagavad Gita has the 4 essential verses that summarize the entire Bhagavad Gita, the chatur-shloki verses. So we'll spend some time with those 4. The way chapter 10 begins is following chapter 9, where Krishna has several times in the chapter emphasized ananya bhakti, or undivided devotion, as the means to achieve him, his spiritual abode, perfection of human existence. He then, chapter 10 is nourishing, enhancing, strengthening the nature of love, because part of the nature of love, in the case of chapter 10 anyway, is understanding his vibhutis. What does vibhuti mean? There's a very nice definition of vibhuti found in Canto 1, Chapter 3 of Srimad Bhagavatam. In Canto 1, Chapter 3 of Srimad Bhagavatam, there's one of the questions of the sages of Naimisharanya was, please describe the forms of the Lord as they appear in this world. Avatars. So the chapter begins describing the Purusha avatars, Mahavishnu, Garbhodakshay Vishnu, Kshirodakshay Vishnu, the Purusha avatars, because they're incarnations of the Lord that appear in this created realm. And from those Vishnu forms come the other avatars, and there's a list of the other avatars. And then at the end of that list, it's not unlimited, but some number. And then it says, or Sutta Goswami says, of these various incarnations, one is the source of all the others. Listed as one of the incarnations, one of them is the source of all the others. And Krishna's Tu Bhagavan Swayam verse is there. And then shortly after that, the word vibhuti is used, because that's also forms of the Lord that appear in this world. It's in the same chapter. Now, these are not forms like, Nrsimha Braha and Ramachandra and other forms of the Lord, but they're forms of the Lord, or manifestations of the Lord that appear in this world, and that's what vibhuti is. Vibhuti means opulences from the spiritual realm that manifest themselves in this realm. And thus there's a connection, there's expansions from the spiritual realm, but they're not fully spiritual, but they're representing that which is fully spiritual in this realm. That's what vibhutis are, expansions of the Lord from the spiritual realm. So the idea is, by hearing about the vibhutis, because the list of the vibhutis is given, vibhutis are unlimited. Krishna says at the end, why say all these? Because with but a spark of my splendor, I pervade and support the whole universe. But there's a nice long list. And the list is given when Krishna is asked by Arjuna, please describe the ways in which I can always remember you. So that's how Krishna responds to that question. You can remember me by my vibhutis, or my manifestations in this world that are opulences, vibhutis. When you see this vibhuti, that vibhuti, it's the superlative of everything, that's me. But the other side is everything similarly, or likewise, is from Krishna, thus Krishna's, and thus one can remind one of Krishna. Now I'm looking at the kitchen table over there, and there's 2 plants sitting in some vases. So one can think Krishna, because there's a spirit soul, and the spirit soul has then manifested that particular form. And from the earlier chapters, Krishna is the source of both matter and spirit, and all manifestations they're from him. So if one has that, because it's an important repeated message within these 3 chapters so far, 7, 8, and 9. Now 10, the superlative of all those things, vibhutis. The purpose is to nourish and strengthen one's devotion. Because the message at the end of chapter 7, again the message at the end of chapter 8 is Ananya Bhakti, so how to nourish that. So chapter 10 begins, Krishna's already said at the beginning of chapter 9 that he's going to describe to Arjuna the Parama Guyam, or Guyam Uttama, the most confidential form of knowledge. And how he begins chapter 10 is, it's curious, after saying what he said in chapter 9, he says, I'll read what he says. Because you are my dear friend, for your benefit I shall speak to you further, giving knowledge that is better than what I have already explained. Wait a minute. What's better than already explained if it's the topmost confidential knowledge? What's better than that? Well, it's not just the vibhutis, it's the chatur-shloki verses. In very concise terms, the beginning of the chatur-shloki verses is Krishna is revealing that he is the absolute truth. He's that from which everything comes. Aham sarvasya prabhavo, etc. Okay, so vakshami, there's the term again. Pravakshami. So this is the 4th time I've made this emphasis, but I'll do it again. The sound vibration, spiritual realization comes through sound vibration. Even mundane knowledge comes through sound vibration. Commonly. Mundane knowledge comes through sound vibration. Hi, go. Nice to see you. Hi, Krishna. You too. Hi, Krishna. Oh, good. There we go. There we go. Okay, so then after making that declaration, the next 2 through 7, Krishna is going to summarize what he says in verses 2 through 7. It's really simple. That which existed before you existed cannot be known, because it existed before you existed. But there is a way to know of that which existed before you existed, and that's if it's revealed to you by or from that which existed before you existed. And that's what Krishna is going to do. That's this better than anything else. I'm going to reveal to you that which existed before you existed. I'm going to reveal to you, Arjuna, the fact that I am the source of everything. Now, he's indicated that to some extent already, but now very succinct and very directly he's going to say it. So is the build-up, text 2, neither the host of demigods nor the great sages know my origin, because he doesn't have one, or opulences, vibhutis. For in every respect I am the source of the demigods and sages. Then he introduces something that's who he really is, but it's understood notionally only, generally speaking. He who knows me as the unborn, that means he doesn't have an origin. Ajam, unborn. Beginningless, anadi, adi and anadi, beginningless. As the Supreme Lord of all worlds, Loka Maheshwaram, he only undiluted among men is freed from all sins. That's pretty emphatic. Means people who don't know that some sin has accumulated, and sin, it makes for problems. Then he lists things that come from him. And there's good things and there's bad things, and the really long purport that's giving a definition or explanation of each one of these things. So there's some bad things. There's fame, but there's also infamy. There's fearlessness, but there's also fear. So there's the positive things: intelligence, knowledge, freedom from doubt and delusion, forgiveness, truthfulness, control of the senses, control of the mind, happiness, here's a bad one, distress, birth, here's a bad one, death, fear, fearlessness, non-violence, equanimity, satisfaction, austerity, charity, fame, and infamy. All these various qualities of living beings, they're created by me alone. So living entities, they're his eternal parts. The Prakriti is his temporary manifestation. There's qualities of that manifestation, and all of that comes from him. Then he goes back to who doesn't know him. The 7 great sages, the Saptarishis. You know who the Saptarishis are? You've heard of that? You've not heard of it before. With this little sidebar. Towards the very beginning of creation, you pay attention. I just wanted to explain what's... You've heard of the Big Dipper? You've heard of the Big Dipper? No? It's one of the constellations of stars in the sky. Big Dipper. That's the Saptarishis. So who are the Saptarishis? Right after, in the very beginning part of creation, there's Lord Brahma. And he does tapa, and he gets knowledge of Vedic wisdom and the process of creation, and he starts creating. So one of the first entities that is manifest from Lord Brahma is Lord Shiva. From the 4 Kumaras come first, and he requests the 4 Kumaras, please assist me in filling up this universe I just built. And the Kumaras go, sorry, Dad. We want to remain brahmachari for our life. But I want you to assist me in filling up the universe. Sorry, Dad, we want to remain brahmachari for life. So he feels some anger. From that anger, from his brow comes Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva does Lord Shiva's thing. He says, calm down. You have your destruction activities that come at the end of the universe. There's a place for you at the bottom of the universe. Shiva manifests 11 Rudras. There's details. 11 Rudras. Rudra means anger. go to the bottom of the universe. When the time comes, you can help me with devastation. So they go. Then comes Manu. You've heard of Manu? Lawgiver of mankind. Manu Samhita, Swayambhuva Manu. Any bells ringing? Yes, Swayambhuva Manu. Not sure. Swayambhuva Manu. And the Saptarishis. Here they are. Very early part of the creation. The Saptarishis. 7 great sages. And they assist in the Prajapati program, the creating of praja, the creating of offspring to fill up the universe. The 7 rishis. I can list their names, but they're 7 rishis. So back to this Bhagavad Gita verse. Krishna is saying, even the Saptarishis, because they're way up there as far as learning. There's in the structure of the universe, the Big Dipper. You want a cosmology lesson? The Big Dipper is just below the pole star. The pole star is where Dhruva Maharaj went. Dhruva Maharaj? Yes, no, maybe? Not sure. Dhruva. You've heard his name before, Dhruva. So, after ruling this earth planet for 60,000 years, at the end of his life, he became the presiding personality in Dhruvaloka, or the pole star, or Svetadweep. They all mean the same thing. The structure of the universe, you ready? I'm trying to keep them engaged. The structure of the universe is there's 7 lower planetary systems, and there's 7 upper planetary systems. Usually 7 plus 7 equals? How much is 7 plus 7?
14.
There you go. There's 14 planetary systems, 7 lower, 7 upper. The number 1 of the 7 upper is this place, called Bhu Mandala. Bhu Mandala. You heard the word mandala. Mandala. They're saying yes and you say no. So, mandala, listen, mandala is a design that has geometric symmetry. Geometric means geometry. I mean, this part reflects that part reflects this part. It's all fit together, and it's a nice diagram that's symmetrical, has symmetry. The different parts reflect the other parts. It's like a big drawing. That's a mandala. So the earth is called Bhu. Bhu Devi is Mother Earth. So Bhu Mandala is this place. And then there's 6 other planetary systems above this place, according to Vedic cosmology. The structure of the universe is we're number 1 of the 7, and then above us, there's Bhuvarloka and Svargaloka. Svarga is heaven. Svarga is heaven. And in between us and heaven is another intermediate place called Bhuvar Loka. And Bhuvar Loka is where Gandharvas, you heard of Gandharvas, they sing, and Apsaras, they dance. And Siddhas, they have mystic powers. Siddhis, the Siddhaloka is there. There's other entities that live in that range. And then there's the heavenly planets. Above the heavenly planets is where the Saptarishis reside. Above the heavenly planets is where the Big Dipper is. And above all those, 1, 2, 3, is the pole star, or the North Star, or Dhruvaloka, or Svetadweep, where Dhruva resides. And the Vedic cosmology describes those middle and upper planets Bhuvarloka and Svargaloka, heavenly realm, they're moving in a clockwise direction, vertically below the Saptarishis. And they're the topmost above, up below Dhruva's planet. So that was a little detour, just to give you a little pic. And then above those, above Dhruvaloka, there's 4 others, because there's 7, and I only named 3. Bhuvar, and Swarga, heaven. Then there's 4 more, up to Brahmaloka. And that's the structure of the universe. So what Krishna is saying is, even these Saptarishis, they don't know me. They're rishis. They're knowers, and they don't know me. The 7 great sages, and before them, the 4 other great sages. Who is that? 4 Kumaras. 4 Kumaras. They existed before the Saptarishis existed. So they don't know me. And the Manus. We mentioned Manu, the lawgiver of mankind, right? Right after Brahma, to help him fill up the universe, there's Manu. Because the 4 Kumaras said, no dad, no thanks. So Manu said yes. So Manu had sons, anyway, and daughters. And together with the Saptarishis, they started the business of populating the universe with living entities. The 7 great sages and the 4 great sages before them, they don't know me. Why? Because they came from me. So you can't know that which existed before you existed. They have an idea, they're educated, but they don't know me. They were born from my mind, and all living beings populating the various planets descend from them. There's one more verse in these preliminary verses, and Krishna is now going to say, they can know me if I disclose myself. One who is factually convinced of this opulence, etam vibhutim yogam cha mama yo veti tattvataha mama yo veti tattvat, one who knows all this truth and opulence about me in truth. What happens? To know what he's going to be disclosing, what do? You do a devotional service. Supposing you don't know. Well, you can have faith, and you can, with faith, you do something according to this system or that system or some other system. You do something. Human life, Prabhupada's explanation is, in human society, where it's not just like animals, but there's some form of worship of something superior. Prabhupada explains, in some cultures, there's worship of nature. They worship mountains. They worship something. In their culture, they worship something. Just another little sidebar. I've spent, hundreds of hours preparing and presenting on a little book that Prabhupada wrote in 1961 called Light of the Bhagavad. You've heard that title? Light of the Bhagavad. It was written in 1961 with Prabhupada's plan to go to a conference that he got a written letter of invitation to be a speaker at in Tokyo. Conference for the upliftment of human spirit, whatever that means. So he was invited as a guest speaker. So he wrote the book. And he was thinking that, rightly so, that in the Far East, there's a tendency to understand lessons of life from nature. It's true. Part of the culture. And so he selected Canto 10, Chapter 20, which is a description of scenes of nature during the rainy season and the autumn season. He took those descriptions and through them taught lessons of life. That's the book. Because it's a part of the culture. Understand lessons of life from nature. So it turns out, while I was preparing for this seminar, a young woman in her mid-20s from China wrote a letter saying, I'm from a minority group in China called, it's a little difficult for me to pronounce it properly, D-O-N-G, Dong. I was told that's how you're supposed to say it, Dong. And the culture is they worship nature. They worship rocks. They worship mountains. They worship rivers. They worship trees. They worship nature. And she was describing some of the things that they do in worship of nature. Anyway, there's worship of nature is recognizing something that's superior. Now, where does that thing that's worshipped in nature come from? So their understanding is there is something divine, and that something divine manifests something in nature that's something very wonderful. So they worship. But the intention behind that worship is worshiping that which is the source of those things, which is like vibhuti. Not the same, but it's like. So one who understands, this little detour was, one who understands this truth about me will engage in devotional service. So that leads into the first of the chatur-shloki verses. So we just finished the first section of chapter 10, verses 1 through 7. The next section, there's 4 sections. The next section is the 4 chatur-shloki verses. The 4 chatur-shloki verses can be said to have 2 parts. Krishna is disclosing himself, and then the other 2 is when devotees understand that about him, what happens? I mean, they engage in devotional service, but they have some realizations just from Krishna's disclosing things about himself. So the first of the chatur-shloki verses, those of you that know the verse, you can say it with me. I could ask somebody to recite it, but it's probably not as fun as everybody can recite it together. 10:8 Bhagavad Gita. You ready? Aham sarvasya prabhavo matak sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam bodha bhava samandita. If you're going to learn some verses someday, those are good verses to learn. There's others, but the 4 essential verses, the whole of Bhagavad Gita can be summarized in these 4 verses. Or from these 4 verses, the rest of the verses of Bhagavad Gita expand, or they rest upon them. So the first 2 lines, Krishna says, I'm the source of everything, everything comes from me. Forwards and backwards. I'm the source of everything. Prabhava means it comes from me. Aham sarvasya prabhava, everything emanates from me. Then he said it the other way. I'm the source of everything. Everything comes from me. Iti matva means thus knowing. Iti matva, what do you do when you know that? Same thing he says at the end of chapter 7, or verse 7. Iti matva bhajante mam. You engage in his service. And when you engage in his service with that understanding, Buddha bhava samanvita. Buddha bhava samanvita. They worship me with all their hearts. Bhava samanvita. The Krishna imparts intelligence and a sense of connectedness, an experience of connectedness. With it inspires or invites or enthuses the experience of, I want to serve Krishna, with a sense of genuine connection with Krishna. Buddha bhava samanvita. So it's very important. We'll just go back. We often say that Bhagavad Gita is the undergraduate study, and then there's a graduate study. You know, undergraduate school and graduate school and postgraduate school, or postdoc, something like that. So the undergraduate is Bhagavad Gita, and the graduate is Srimad Bhagavatam. And Srimad Bhagavatam is a commentary on Vedanta Sutra, which begins with the aphorism, the absolute, the human form of life is meant for inquiry into the absolute truth, Atatu Brahma Jigyasa. And the next aphorism, number 2, says the absolute truth is that from which everything comes. Correct? Janma dhyasya yataha. Janma dhyasya yataha. The absolute truth is that from which everything comes. Well, the first verse of the chatur-shloki verses of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, that's me. I am that from which everything comes. Aham sarvasya prabhavo matak sarvam prabhavo. What's the purpose of that? Engaging in devotional service. Iti matva bhajante mam. The purpose is not information. The purpose is awakening our dormant consciousness of being connected in devotion to the Supreme. Remember a couple verses back, Krishna said, one who understands this nature of him, he's unborn, etc., they're free from sin. So there's no, the coverings of contamination are gone from someone who actually understands this about Krishna. It's very similar, the message is very similar to the well-known verse, those who know the transcendental nature of my janma and my activities, janma karma chame divyam, evam yo veti tatvataha, chaktva deham, after giving up this body, chaktva deham, punar janma na, no more birth. Knowing the nature of Krishna being the source of everything is really important. And it's obviously, if that's sufficient for no more birth, then it must be very special. So it's not just, a concept. Yeah, Krishna is the source of everything. It's to the extent where devotional service is unstoppable, or it can't be broken. It can't be eclipsed by something else. Circumstances can be difficult, but the circumstances can't check. This came up in the midday discussion. Circumstances can't check, can't stop devotional service. For everything material, there's a cause, and when the cause is withdrawn, then the material stops. But Krishna has no material cause. In fact, he's the cause of all material causes. So nothing can stop him. And devotion to Krishna is of the same nature. Nothing can stop devotional service when it's of this caliber. So that's the first of the chatur-shloki verses. So what is Krishna going to say after that? What's the second of the chatur-shloki verses? here we are. We're in this Madgatain Antaratmana position again. For those of you that have been with us for some of the earlier classes, that phrase comes from the last verse of chapter 6, where Krishna declares the best of all yogis is my devotee. And two characteristics, one of them is Madgatain Antaratmana. They're always thinking of Krishna within. So here it is in the chatur-shloki verses. Machita madgatak prana bodhayantak parasparam. Oh, let's just say it together. Machita madgatak prana bodhayantak parasparam katayantas chamam nityam tushyanti cha ramanti cha. That's a nice ending. Tushyanti cha ramanti cha. This is what happens to the person who knows Krishna this way and engages in his loving service, tushyanti and ramanti. Tushyanti and ramanti. It's very pleasing and very joyful, transcendentally blissful. Tushyanti cha ramanti cha. So, machita magatak prana. Their minds fully engaged in me. Sound familiar? Madgatain Antaratmana, just the Sanskrit is different. Madchita. Their minds are fully absorbed in me. So Krishna promised, and he's keeping his promise, how to develop that. So here's how to develop that, right here. From understanding Krishna's position as the source of everything. And then the type of devotional, the quality of devotion in service to him that follows from that, that's how to fix one's consciousness upon Krishna. Madchita, madgatak prana, their lives fully devoted to my service. Bodhayantak parasparam. They derive great satisfaction and bliss from always enlightening me. Katayantas chamam nityam tushyanti cha ramanti cha. Important verse. So now, verse number 10, or the third of the four chatur-shloki verses. Tesam satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami bodhayogam tam yena mam upayanti te. So this goes back to a topic that we've discussed a few times now, from the earlier first section of Bhagavad Gita, where the senses are superior to dull matter. There's a hierarchy. You with me? The senses are superior to dull matter. The mind is above the senses. The intelligence is above the mind, and above them all the supersoul. The soul. Then above that is supersoul. So how are you going to get the mind fixed on Krishna? Well, it's been explained. When there's attachment to something, that's where your mind goes. It's like, that's what happened to Bharat Maharaj. He was attached to the deer, and at the time of death, he was thinking of the deer, and guess what? Oh dear. He became a deer. So what one is attached to, that's where the mind goes. Or the mind goes to that which one is attached to. And the essence of Bhagavad Gita, the essence of devotional life, is to reawaken our natural attachment to Krishna, or affection and attachment. There's nice Sanskrit words for these, attachment and affection, or Krishna consciousness, awakening our original Krishna consciousness. And hearing about Krishna from Krishna, or hearing about Krishna from one who has heard from Krishna, or from hearing from one who has heard from one who has heard from Krishna, or hearing in disciplic succession. That's the effect. That the covering of forgetfulness becomes cleansed. The awakening of remembrance comes out. And then when a greatly fortunate person may become attached to Krishna. And then it's natural to machita, mind attached to me, constantly devoted in serving me. Krishna gives intelligence. Dadami buddhi yogam tam. What kind of intelligence? The intelligence by which they can come to me. That's what real intelligence is. It's like there's happiness and there's real happiness. And there's intelligence and there's real intelligence. Okay, let's go to the last. Another very nice verse. Tesham evanukam partam aham agyanajam tamaha nashayam yatma bhavasto jnana dipena basvita. Nice verse. Jnana dipena. The deepa, or the lamp of gyan, lamp of knowledge. Krishna personally gets involved in the heart of one unto those who are constantly devoted to him. Krishna gets out his lamp of knowledge and illumines their dark hearts so they can see him, they can understand him. Ajnana jam tamaha. The darkness, tama, born of ignorance. Ajnana ja. The darkness born of ignorance. Krishna destroys the darkness born of ignorance with the torchlight of knowledge from within. Very nice. Krishna reveals himself, and in the process of revealing himself, he destroys the darkness that's covering him. And unto whom does he do that? Unto those who are engaged constantly, devotedly, satata yuktanam, bhajatam priti, with love and devotion. Krishna enters their heart and destroys whatever has been there for who knows how many lifetimes, accumulated darkness of ignorance, etc. It's gone. It's a reciprocation from Krishna. So there's boiling it down to two things: effort and mercy. Mm-hmm. The effort of proper conduct that we know is pleasing to Krishna. We know it's pleasing to Krishna because it's revealed in scriptures. That which is pleasing to Krishna we do, with the purpose of pleasing him, and Krishna seeing that consistent effort from our side, that he gives mercy. And this is one of the ways that he gives mercy. Just reading, making one of the services I've been doing in relation to the Chinese devotees is every other week on a Wednesday evening, which is Wednesday evening our time, Thursday evening more time, their time, a 2-hour discussion on chapters from the Bhagavatam. So one of the ones we just completed, chapters 78 and 79, Balaram went on pilgrimage. Balaram went on pilgrimage because he knew that there was going to be Kurukshetra battle. Kauravas had made there's got to be war. Krishna tried to make peace. There's got to be war. Balaram didn't want to take sides, so he went on pilgrimage. And the many things happened in the course of pilgrimage, and his activities are so wonderful that when his activities are completed, he comes back to Prabhas. Prabhas is a place near Dwarka. It's by the sea. And he hears from the sages there, from the Brahmanas, that the Kurukshetra battle is over now. And the demoniac kings have been destroyed. But he also hears that there's this concluding battle between Bhima and Duryodhana. It's on the 18th day. Balaram, being Mr. Peacemaker, he swiftly, like as fast as lightning, he goes to Kurukshetra and pleads with both of them, stop this fighting. And he gives his reasons why. And the enmity is too great. They can't follow what Balaram says. And so he leaves. He goes back to Dwarka. When he goes back to Dwarka, he's outside the city. He's received by Ugrasena, the king, Pradyumna, Krishna's elder son, because Pradyumna was not involved in the Kurukshetra battle. He was in Dwarka protecting Dwarka with Ugrasena and Vasudeva. So they bring him, they greet him, they bring him into the city, and they want to hear about his adventures. And that's kind of how the chapter ends. So the beginning of the next chapter is Maharaj Parikshit says, basically, tell me more, tell me more. There's no limit to this nectar that comes from hearing of the Lord's pastimes. Tell me more, tell me more. Please give your mercy to Shukadev. And the commentary says, the mercy of the Lord comes in the form of an attraction for hearing. I'll say it again. The mercy of the Lord comes in the form of hearing, an attraction for hearing, because the attraction for hearing is an attraction for Krishna. Hearing topics of Krishna means it awakens an attraction for Krishna. And when there's an attraction for Krishna, there's detachment. In the Vedas, there's a strong emphasis on knowledge and detachment. The couplet is there throughout the Upanishads. Jnana Vairagya. Any process of spiritual development, any process of any kind, anywhere, within the Vedas and outside the Vedas, there's a necessity for detachment. But detachment comes devotionally by unattachment for topics of Krishna. And attachment for topics of Krishna come from hearing topics of Krishna. It's a symptom that one has gotten mercy. Mercy comes in the form of an attraction for the topics of transcendence. So those who have developed that Kathayantas chamam nityam tushanti cha ramanti cha, they derive great happiness and satisfaction discussing topics about me. Unto those persons, those are the persons who I, with the torchlight of knowledge, yanadipena bhasvata, I destroy the darkness born of ignorance. Their material life is finished by Krishna's mercy. So going back to his promise at the very beginning of chapter 7, I'm going to explain how to. Next time somebody asks me the how-to question and fill in the blank, I'm going to say, read the middle 6 chapters of Bhagavad Gita. It's right there. It's right there. Just read it carefully. It's right there. How to. So after, that's the chatur-shloki verses. After hearing the chatur-shloki verses, Arjuna makes some very important declarations. Prabhupada would often refer to these declarations. Param Brahma, Param Dhamma, Pavitram Paramam Bhavan, Purusham Shashvatam Divyam, Adi Devam, Ajam Vibhum. So he's making declarations about Krishna's divinity. And then he says, it's not just me because you're my friend, the great sages, Devala and Asita, and the greatest personalities, they confirm the same. O Krishna, Sarvam etad ritam manye, yo mam vadasi Keshava, I accept as truth all that you've told me. Neither the demigods nor the demons can understand your personality, which Krishna said already. You alone know yourself by your own internal potency. O Supreme Person, origin of all, Lord of all beings, God of gods, Lord of the universe. Then comes the end of this section where Arjuna says to Krishna, in detail, please give me ways in which I can always remember you. There's another place in the Bhagavatam where before the Rajasuya sacrifice is performed, this is story time. Story time. Story time. You know what Rajasuya sacrifice means? It's a very special yajna in which someone is declared as the emperor. It's the Raja of all yajnas, the king of all yajnas. It's a big deal. So Yudhisthira performed the Rajasuya yajna, but one of the requirements of the Rajasuya yajna is enormous wealth to pull the whole thing off. But also, all the other kings in the world have to either A or B, submit, I accept you as the emperor, I'll be a king in my kingdom, but you're the emperor above the king. And to verify, here's my tax. Because you have to have the tax in order to do the Rajasuya yajna. Or B, if you say, no, I don't submit, then I'm going to do battle with you. And I'll defeat you. And then you lose your kingdom. Or you'll defeat me. And then, I can't do the Rajasuya yajna. So all kings, everywhere, except for one, submitted. And the one that didn't submit, his name starts with a J. You know his name? Jarasandha. Jarasandha. And when Krishna was in Dwarka, this is story time. When Krishna was in Dwarka, one chapter describes his daily activities. It's forget which chapter number. 70, chapter 70, his daily activities. So it says what Krishna does every day. And then, at the end of the morning, all the 16,108 Krishnas leave his palace and they merge into one Krishna. And the one Krishna enters the assembly hall. Now he's not the king, Ugrasena is the king, but he's the respected person even more than the king, Ugrasena. So one day, in the assembly hall, one messenger comes to requesting audience of Krishna. Immediately he's brought before Krishna. And the messenger is representing 20,000 kings that were confronted by Jarasandha in the same way, saying, either you submit to me and I'll be the emperor, or I'll finish you. They didn't want to submit to Krishna. They submit to Jarasandha because they were Krishna devotees. So he put them in a prison. And his plan, he was starving them. His plan was to make a human sacrifice. He wasn't a nice guy. Mahabhairava, a form of Lord Shiva, was going to make human sacrifice. make a nice offering to Lord Shiva, and he would get some points, some Lord Shiva points, and get more power from that. That was what his idea was. So the king sent a messenger to Krishna saying, please rescue us. We're your devotees. And oh, by the way, we don't understand how he's such a bad guy, but he's so powerful. And we're your devotees, and he's more powerful than us. We don't get it. I mean, they didn't use that language, but that was part of their message. So, but please come rescue us. So some time passed. Uddhava made the plan. First, kill Jarasandha, and then do the Rajasuya Yagya. Because right after that messenger came, Narada Muni came. Narada Muni came right as soon as that messenger finished his message. Krishna said, same as our Bhagavad Gita message, do not fear. He didn't say masuchaha, but something essentially the same. Nabhaya, don't have any fear. Narada Muni came. Narada Muni said, Yudhishthira wants you to come and assist him with the Rajasuya. Commentary says, Narada knew that Krishna wanted to kill Jarasandha. Narada knew. That's why he came. When he came, it was for the message from Yudhishthira that he wants you to come. But that means you can't have the Rajasuya without killing Jarasandha. And Krishna wanted to kill Jarasandha. So after Jarasandha was killed, what did Krishna do? He went and freed the kings. The kings offered these amazing prayers, saying, we're fools. We're proud of our being kings and opulence and power and this and that and the other thing. It was all taken from us like that. And now we don't want it. We just want one thing. Tell me, what's that one thing? They wanted the same one thing that Arjuna is asking here. They wanted remembrance of Krishna without forgetting Krishna, and they wanted to know from Krishna the means of knowing him, of remembering him always. So I told you the whole story is because it's the last of this little section where Arjuna speaks and then Krishna speaks. And the Krishna speaking is really long. It's a good number of verses. It covers verse 11 through 25. That's a lot of verses. And it's just listing of vibhutis. This vibhuti, that vibhuti. Opulences of Krishna in this world. I'm fish, I'm sharks, I'm the mountains, I'm the Himalayas, I'm the light of the sun and the moon, and all those the vibhutis of Krishna. The most excellent of anything, that's Krishna. I mean, the other things, they're also Krishna, but the most excellent one is Krishna. And then he ends that section, verse number 26 from chapter 10. We're almost done. Verse 26. Of all creations, I am the beginning and the end, and also the middle. Of all sciences, I am the spiritual science of the self. Among logicians, I am the conclusive truth, etc. Keeps going. I'm all devouring death, and I'm also the generating principle of all that is yet to be, and so forth. Then comes Yad Vibhuti Mat Sattvam. This is text 41. Know that all opulent, beautiful, and glorious creations spring from but a spark of my splendor. Teja Angsha Sambhavat. All of these vibhutis spring from but a spark of my splendor. But what is there need, O Arjuna, for all this detailed knowledge? With a single fragment of myself, ekang stena stito jagat. I pervade and support the entire universe. And that's the end of chapter 10. So what's the purpose of all these vibhutis? It's two things. Arjuna is asking for ways to remember Krishna, so these are ways to remember Krishna. I remember one reporter, or many people would ask, but one reporter, on one occasion, it was recorded, they asked Prabhupada, Swamiji, have you seen Krishna? Have you seen God? Prabhupada's reply, if I told you, would you believe me? Yeah. And then Prabhupada's reply, not only have seen God, but I'm always seeing him. Now, do you believe me? And now always seeing him can mean different things. And one of the things it can mean is make the connection between Krishna's vibhutis, because it's Krishna. It's in Canto 1, Chapter 3, Manifestation of Krishna within this world. It's one of his vibhutis. And you know his vibhutis, you know Krishna. And you can see Krishna through his vibhutis. If you have spiritual vision. And if not, you can't. And of course, it takes Krishna's mercy, the revelation, to get to that stage. In any case, the purpose of all of this is to nourish what he said at the end of chapter 9. It's to assist us, by assisting Arjuna, is to assist us in achieving Ananya Bhakti, or achieving Madgatain Antaratmana, or Madjita Madgatak Prana, is to assist us. And it's the ways, the second is ways by which, as Arjuna is asking, how to always remember him. Just like the kings were asking Krishna for the benediction. They didn't ask for constant remembrance. They asked for the ways by which, simple and practical ways by which we can always remember you. Our minds can be absorbed in your lotus feet. That was what they said. So that our minds, instead of absorbed in having our kingdom and wealth and combat with one another and struggle and all the stuff that goes on with worldly stuff, we don't want that. What do you want? A means by which our minds can be always absorbed in your lotus feet. These are kings, 20,000 kings. So we're back on the battlefield. Arjuna has asked Krishna, what's my duty? The armies are arrayed and the whole thing is taking some time. And Arjuna is a very important hero in the battle, and it's like a lot is hinging on the outcome of the battle, what Arjuna's going to decide. But he's already, in this chapter, he's accepted everything that Krishna has said, and just wants to know how to always remember him. Of course, he's already there because he's Krishna's dear friend. He holds Krishna dear to him, so he's always going to remember Krishna anyways. But he's asking for our benefit. So it's for our benefit to appreciate the ways in which Krishna can be meditated upon always through his vibhutis. Okay, that's the end of chapter 10. We only have 2 more for the middle 6 chapters. So I'm going to have to add some other things so we can keep ourselves busy for this visit. Some other things, at the Sunday feast lecture, I plan to just do like a general Bhagavad Gita, overview. And for those of you that are interested in Vedic cosmology, our young fellows over here, if you're interested in Vedic cosmology, I'm going to show a little video of Vedic cosmology. You going to be there tomorrow? You got an invitation. If you come, I'll show you a little video. Morning you'll be here? No. Evening. Sunday feast. Sunday at the temple. Try to come. Okay. Any discussion? Vibhuti Yoga. We have a young lady over there. She's ready to share the microphone with you. All you have to do is put your hand up. There's one hand up over here.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. I really like the definition or what is vibhuti, the way you explain, Guru Maharaj. It's a expansion of Krishna from the spiritual realm, the opulences, and it is there to nourish and enhance our love for Krishna. So that's very beautiful.
Yes.
But my question is, even though everything is Krishna or Krishnas, on the day-to-day life, I'm talking for me, the smell of the earth, the flower, the color, there's so many out there, it's so splendid, but all Krishna's opulences, but the mind, like, I don't appreciate that it's a day-to-day basis. Even though it's there for us to remember Krishna, kind of take it for granted, or I don't want to use the word take it for granted, but it's there, but not remember to appreciate that or remember. Once in a while we do that, the taste of the water and the beauty of everything out there, but it doesn't happen all the time. But Krishna is here explaining to Arjuna, this is the way you can remember me.
I'm listening. Is there a punchline to this?
So how to?
You know what my answer is. Read the middle 6 chapters of Bhagavad Gita. Practice. Abhyasa yoga yuktena cetasa nanyagamino. That's how to. Abhyasa. Practice. Supposing you're not so consistent with practice. Okay, start with some practice. Sometimes I remember. Sometimes, most of the time, I don't remember. Okay, that's the beginning. And then try to remember. And what do I do to try to remember? You hear, and then you apply what you hear. It's really important to apply what you hear. If you don't apply what you hear, it doesn't stick. If you apply, it sticks. It sticks because you get some realization. Wow. The principle is, one who acts in knowledge gets realization. Supposing, have you ever seen an electron before? I'm asking this. Have you seen an electron?
No.
No. Do you believe in electrons? I'm not sure.
I don't know what they are.
You don't know what they are. Electricity. So here's an electric socket. You stick your fingers in the electric socket and you'll find out what electricity is. You have an experience. Don't do it, but when you act in knowledge, you get some experience. You get some realization. That's the principle. You have to have the right knowledge. But when you have right knowledge and you act on right knowledge, you apply it in your life, something happens. You get some realization. Like anything. Like, supposing you have an illness. Supposing you don't remember Krishna illness. So you go to a good doctor. And the doctor makes the diagnosis. They do, if say a good Ayurvedic doctor. They take your pulse. They get a sense of what's going on in there. They ask you the symptoms to verify if what their pulse reading matches what your symptoms are. They do it in that order. And then they make their diagnosis and say, this is what's going on in there, and this is what you need to do. If you have a good doctor, and you have faith, this is important, you have faith in the good doctor, and you follow what the good doctor says. 3 things. A good doctor means he has good diagnosis, and you have faith in the person, in proper medicine, and diet. And something happens, and you follow that, and you go, wow, he was good. So your faith has increased because you got some realization. My health has become better in this way. So as with medicine, so also with spiritual health. You apply that which is knowledge from Bhagavad Gita and you get some realization. So just that's abhyasa. You keep practicing. And then the disease becomes reduced and the health becomes restored. Spiritual health becomes restored. But you just keep applying things that you've heard. Go on hearing the hearing process with faith from the right source and apply it. That's how. Gradually coverings become reduced and remembrance becomes awakened. Natural consciousness becomes restored. Right? See, he agrees. Where's our, over here?
Okay, why do we need a doctor when we can just believe in Krishna? Isn't it all?
Why do we need a doctor when we've got Krishna? Is that your question?
Yeah.
Well, Krishna has doctors. He has Krishna gives knowledge, and part of the knowledge of Krishna is Ayurveda. You've heard of Ayurveda, right? Mm-hmm. It's the knowledge of medicine. But that comes from Krishna. And then people that know Ayurveda, that have a proper training in it, they can help you. But behind them is Krishna, or the incarnation of Krishna who presented the knowledge of medicine. Dhanvantari, you've heard his name? He's the form of Krishna, the avatar that presented Ayurveda within this world. So behind the Ayurvedic doctor is Krishna. Here's a very good one. You ready? I'm ready. An Ayurvedic doctor that I used to see, I say used to see because he's now deceased, he was superlative amongst all the trainees of his Ayurvedic doctor. When his Ayurvedic doctor was 140 years old, he gave him the teachings, in leaves, plantain leaves or whatever the leaves are in which they make, the Vedic texts. He gave them to this teacher. And the teacher had established an Ayurvedic clinic, and he took me once because he was really happy. He was opening, so from the top floor to the bottom floor, we got to the bottom floor. And he said, through what I've learned, anybody comes in this door, I can help them become well. But when they go back to their old habits, then I can't change that. I can make them well, but I can't make them change their habits. So I, as a physician, need you. So you got an Ayurvedic doctor that can cure illnesses, but if people have tendencies or habits that are unwholesome, the same problem is going to return. So they need spiritual well-being to match the physical well-being. So that's why, in response to your question. You need spiritual. So for spiritual well-being, you also need physical well-being. There's a holistic picture. Bhakti isn't dependent upon physical well-being, but it sure helps. Okay. Nice question. Thank you. Anyone else?
Thank you, Sugar Maharaj. Maharaj, this is regarding to the verse Janma Karma Chame Divyam. Understanding Krishna, you mentioned uneclipsed devotional service to Krishna. Is that the stage when won't take the human life anymore? Is that a stage of like higher stages of bhava? Is that defining?
No, it's a higher stage of bhakti. Bhakti has different categories, that's not bhava or higher stages of bhava, it's bhakti. When bhakti becomes restored, then through bhakti one can understand Krishna. When one understands Krishna, no more birth and death. It's not specifying higher stages of bhava. It's just specifying the bhakti that's unchecked, unimpeded by, and not created by something material, and not impeded by something material. Can't be started or stopped by something material. That's undivided bhakti, ananya bhakti. That's what the topic that we've been discussing from chapter 7 and chapter 8 and chapter 9. Ananya bhakti, undivided devotion, unstopped devotion, unchecked devotion.
Thank you very much.
Then Viprana Maharaj, Maharaj,
You have to hold the microphone close, please. You can do it. I mean, we know. There you go. Go ahead.
how can we see the growth? Okay, how I can say, or how I can feel I'm growing, or
What's the measure for spiritual progress? How do I know I'm doing well? How do I grade myself? There's simple and then there's more subtle. The simple is attraction for spirit, detachment from matter. Eagerness to hear. Just like I gave this nice description of the kings that were rescued by Krishna from the prison of Jarasandha. Or Maharaj Parikshit wanting to hear further. It's the eagerness to hear. It's a measure of progress. Supposing you have discretionary time. Most of us are really busy throughout the day. Now you have some discretionary time. Where does your mind go? So that's a measure of whether you're making progress. Your mind you're just trying to organize your day in such a way that those spiritual activities of hearing, there's time for it. That's a sign of progress. And that means simultaneously that the attraction for distraction, the attraction for time wasters diminishes. Here, an example. So I visited in Bangalore before going to Vrindavan for the yatra. And one of the ladies wrote on behalf of some of the ladies, saying, some of us ladies, housewives, when the kids grow up and go off to school and we're at home, there's a tendency to do time-wasting stuff with their phones. And she started listing some of the time-wasting things. So what to do? So that's an indication that they're attracted to bhakti, but it's not sufficiently strong that the attraction for hearing has grown, eagerness to hear has not sufficiently grown, and so there's distraction. There's weeds in the garden, and they have to pull the weeds in order to have nourishment for the creeper that they want to grow. The gardening example is a good example. So water the garden and pull the weeds. So, if you practice at that, that's the sadhana part, then the progress is there's just a natural attraction. When there's discretionary time, you want to chant, you want to hear, you want to offer prayers, you want to worship, you want to do that which is devotional. And that means simultaneously the attraction for being an enjoyer of the temporary subsides. So look at your life, your day, and where do you waste time? I don't need to answer right now, but you ask yourself that question, or ask a dear friend or your family members. What are time wasters? And then you make a plan, because you might be blind to it. You may not see it yourself. So you do it yourself, and you ask those close to you, what are time-wasting things that you see me doing? And then you just dial that down, and you dial the other up by practice. Back to her question. Abhyasa. So it's, in increments you do more of the hearing and chanting, and the direct devotional service, worshipping, praying, serving the lotus feet. You do more of that. And then that will naturally have an effect of diminishing the attraction for the other, because it's so much nicer. Then comes absorption. Okay. Anything else? Online, anything? No. Okay. Looks like we're done. Thank you very much, Prabhupada Ki Jai.